The morning discovery. I woke up that morning feeling off, though I couldn't tell why. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, painting stripes across my messy bedroom floor, and I stumbled toward the closet, still half asleep, thinking about how I'd overslept. My mom always hated it when I was late, and today, of all days, I needed to be on time. School felt like it had doubled in importance overnight, though nothing had changed except that weird feeling creeping under my skin. I opened my closet and froze. Everything I had brought home the night before, the jeans, the hoodie I was going to wear, was gone. Instead, neatly folded were skirts, blouses, and pastel-colored cardigans I had never touched in my life. My heart skipped a beat, a sharp twinge of panic. I could feel my chest tightening, my hands trembling. No, this couldn't be right. These were my sister's clothes. How did they even get here? I reached for the hooded sweatshirt I thought I'd left hanging the night before, but it wasn't there. Just a pink pleated skirt, a white blouse with frills, and a ribbon cardigan. Mom's experiment. I heard footsteps from the kitchen and realized I had no time to think. My mom appeared in the doorway, smiling at me, but there was something in her eyes that made me hesitate. It wasn't just a smile, it was a look of expectation. "Morning, honey," she said casually. "I thought I'd help you out today. Go on, try them on." "What?" My voice cracked, disbelief lacing every word. "Try what on?" She tilted her head, her smile widening, almost mischievous. "Your sister's outfit. You'll see. It's an experiment, I guess. Don't worry. You look great." I froze. My mind was screaming, trying to find a rational explanation, but there wasn't one. She wasn't joking, at least not in a funny way. She was serious. And something in the firmness of her tone made me realize I didn't have a choice if I wanted to avoid a scene. I can't," I stammered. "People will see me, my friends." "Exactly why you should try it now," she interrupted gently, almost like she was coaxing a scared animal. "It's just for today. You'll be home before anyone notices. You might even learn something about yourself." The first transformation. I looked at her, trying to read any hint of playfulness, any sign that I could refuse without consequence, but there was none. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, and grabbed the clothes from the hanger. My hands shook as I held them, feeling the soft material in my fingers, something strange and foreign about the texture. I turned away from her, my back to the mirror, forcing myself to strip out of my hoodie and jeans. The fabric of my sister's clothes felt strange, delicate, alien, even as I tugged the skirt over my legs and buttoned the blouse. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and nearly dropped the hanger. I didn't recognize the person staring back. My sister's soft curls framed a face that was undeniably mine, yet every line and curve felt magnified, emphasized in a way I had never seen. The skirt swished around my thighs. The blouse hugged my shoulders differently, and the cardigan added a touch of innocence that I had never embodied. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like the whole world could see through me. "See," Mom said from the doorway, her voice soft. "You look beautiful. You look different, but in a good way. I knew you had it in you." I couldn't speak. I could only nod, my mind racing, trying to figure out how this had happened. Every nerve in my body screamed embarrassment, shame, and yet something else, a curious thrill I couldn't name. Facing the world. The mirror reflected someone I didn't recognize, yet at the same time, it was me. I walked to the living room, careful with each step, feeling the skirt move around my legs in a way that made me hyper-aware of every movement. "Your sister's friend is coming over," Mom said casually. "You'll be fine. Just act natural." Act natural? My heart was hammering. How could I act natural when I felt like my entire identity had been stripped away and replaced by someone else's? And then I heard a knock at the door, my stomach sinking into my shoes. I opened it to see my best friend standing there, backpack slung over one shoulder, oblivious to the storm inside me. "Hey," they said, smiling. "You ready to go?" I froze. Words lodged in my throat. How could I explain this? How could I explain that my mom had swapped my clothes with my sister's and that I was now wearing something that felt like a costume, but also strangely real? I forced a laugh, a shaky, unnatural sound, and nodded. Yeah, let's go. The walk to school. The walk to school felt like a nightmare and a dream at the same time. Every glance from passersby, every whisper, every step amplified my awareness. I kept tugging at the skirt, adjusting the blouse, hoping no one would notice. But deep inside, I couldn't deny the strange rush that surged every time someone looked my way, as if seeing me in this new form was giving me some hidden power, some secret thrill. At school, the whispers started almost immediately. Friends stared, some with confusion, some with curiosity. I felt my cheeks burn, my hands clenching in my pockets, or at least where pockets should have been. But even in the embarrassment, a small part of me felt alive. Alive in a way I had never experienced when wearing my usual clothes. I felt delicate, visible, and utterly exposed, but also uncomfortably free. A new awareness. Throughout the day, I navigated hallways filled with laughter, whispers, and sideways glances. Every step was a test of courage. Every laugh or smile from someone else a tiny victory. And all the while, my mom's words echoed in my mind. You might learn something about yourself. What could she mean? How could wearing my sister's clothes teach me anything about who I was? By lunchtime, the initial panic had begun to morph into something else. Something subtle, almost imperceptible, but undeniable. I found myself adjusting the skirt less, smoothing the blouse almost absent-mindedly. I caught my reflection in a window and didn't flinch, not fully. For a fleeting second, I looked at the person staring back and didn't feel repulsed or trapped. I felt curious. I realized that my fear wasn't just about being seen. It was about seeing myself, about facing the possibility that who I was on the inside might not fit neatly into the box I had always believed it did. And that scared me more than any whisper or glance ever could. Coming home, by the time the last bell rang, I was exhausted, drained from adrenaline and self-consciousness. But beneath the exhaustion, something else was brewing, a quiet, nervous anticipation. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew this day had changed something fundamental. When I got home, Mom was waiting in the kitchen, smiling that same inscrutable smile. So, how was your day? I opened my mouth, but the words caught in my throat. I had no idea how to describe it, how to articulate the storm of emotions that had raged through me all day. Mom didn't push. She just nodded as if reading my silence perfectly. You'll see, she said softly. This is just the beginning. And as I collapsed onto my bed, still in my sister's clothes, I realized she was right. This was only the beginning. Something inside me had shifted. A door had opened, and I didn't know if I was ready for what was waiting on the other side. Day 2. Acceptance begins. The next morning, I woke with a strange mixture of dread and anticipation. My sister's clothes still smelled faintly of her perfume, and for a moment, I felt like I was wearing someone else's skin. I tried to convince myself I would change back before anyone noticed, but the pile of my own clothes, neatly folded in a corner of my room, stared at me accusingly. I couldn't ignore it, but I also couldn't reach for it. Mom's words echoed in my mind. This is just the beginning. I dressed carefully, moving almost mechanically as I tugged the skirt into place, smoothed the blouse, and buttoned the cardigan. Something about the softness of the fabric calmed my shaking hands, and the reflection in the mirror, though still unfamiliar, didn't make me want to turn away this time. I lingered there, staring, feeling a strange tug at my chest that I couldn't name. Mom appeared in the doorway with a gentle smile, holding my backpack. Ready? She asked. Her tone was lighter than yesterday, but her eyes held that same knowing look, the kind that made me feel like she could read every hidden thought. I nodded, swallowing my nerves. Growing confidence. The walk to school was quieter today. Maybe it was because I had gotten used to the stairs. Or maybe it was because I was starting to notice something strange about myself. Each time someone glanced at me, I felt a flicker of pride mixed with fear. It was confusing, but I couldn't deny it. There was a part of me that liked this new attention, that enjoyed the way my movements felt lighter, softer, almost elegant in a way I had never imagined. At school, everything escalated faster than I expected. Whispers followed me down the hallways, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Friends I had known for years treated me differently. Some laughed nervously, some stared openly, and a few whispered behind their hands, exchanging glances that made my stomach twist. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, every beat a reminder that I had no control over the way I looked today. The confrontation. Then came the moment I had feared most. Confrontation. My closest friend, the one I trusted more than anyone, stopped me in the corridor. Their eyes searched mine, wide with a mix of confusion and surprise. "Wait, is that really you?" I wanted to shrink, to run, to disappear into the floor, but instead, I forced a small, shaky laugh. "Yeah, it's me," I said, my voice trembling. They stared, silent for a long, heavy moment. I could see the questions in their eyes, why, how, and most importantly, what this meant. And for the first time, I had no answer. Not a simple one, at least. Over the next few hours, the day passed in a blur of strange glances, awkward interactions, and moments where I caught my reflection in a window or a glass door and didn't entirely panic. The reflection was becoming more familiar. And yet, that familiarity came with a disorienting thrill. I felt like I was looking at myself for the first time. Really looking, and the person I saw was both me and not me, a version I had never dared imagine. Lunchtime revelation. By lunchtime, the cafeteria felt like a minefield. Every table was a potential trap. Every conversation a reminder of how different I looked. I kept my head down, picking at my food when I noticed someone I didn't expect. It was my sister's friend, the one who always teased her in a playful, chaotic way. She saw me instantly and froze. Her eyes widened, and for a moment I feared she would scream or laugh. But then she smiled slowly, carefully, like she was letting me in on a secret. You look different," she said softly, almost reverently. I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Different wasn't a bad word. Not entirely. It was accurate, unsettling, and strangely thrilling all at once. "You look like her," she added, nodding toward the skirt, the blouse, the cardigan. My chest tightened. She meant my sister, of course. But the thing was, I didn't entirely hate it. Something in me stirred, a curious, hesitant pride. Transformation continues. The rest of the day passed in a haze of whispers, stolen glances, and moments where I caught myself adjusting the skirt, less out of fear and more out of habit. My movements were slower now, more deliberate, more conscious. I could feel every sway, every touch of the fabric, and it was intoxicating. After school, when I got home, Mom was waiting in the living room, her expression unreadable. "How is it?" she asked, and I could tell she wasn't just asking about my day. She wanted to know about me, about the way I felt inside this new skin. I don't know," I admitted, sinking onto the couch. It was weird, embarrassing, but also not bad. My words sounded strange even to me. I had expected anger, frustration, shame, but instead there was a flicker of something else, something I couldn't name. Mom smiled faintly, almost knowingly. "That's good. That's exactly what I wanted you to feel."
What?
"Why?" I asked, panic creeping back in. "Because sometimes we don't realize who we are until we step into someone else's shoes or clothes," she said gently. "You're learning. You're exploring. That's all. There's nothing wrong with feeling curious. Deeper understanding." Her words were supposed to reassure me, but they also unsettled me. Curious about what, exactly? About how I looked, about how I felt, about who I might be becoming. I didn't have answers. All I knew was that the world felt different now. And so did I. Over the next few days, the pattern continued. Mom encouraged it subtly at first, then more openly. Each morning, my clothes were swapped, my sister's outfits chosen carefully, almost like she was guiding me through an unspoken experiment. At first, it was terrifying. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and completely out of control. But slowly, imperceptibly, something inside me was changing. I noticed the way I walked, the way I held myself, the way my reflection began to feel less alien. I noticed the curious glances, the subtle compliments, the way people treated me differently. And somewhere deep inside, I couldn't deny a strange thrill, the knowledge that I could be seen in a new light, that I could be someone different, and maybe, just maybe, I liked it. My sister's reaction. One evening, as I sat on my bed adjusting the cardigan, my sister came in. She froze when she saw me, her eyes wide. "Whoa, you're wearing my clothes." I nodded, unsure what to say. "Mom, she wants me to." My sister studied me for a long moment, then laughed softly, shaking her head. "You look different. Weirdly good. Honestly, I didn't think it would suit you, but it kind of does." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Not because of the compliment, but because of the acceptance, the realization that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about being embarrassed, about hiding, about shame. Maybe it was about discovering a side of myself I had never allowed to exist. Self-discovery. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about how much had changed in just a few days. Clothes, reflection, perception, identity, they all felt tangled together, a knot I couldn't untie. And yet, in the middle of that knot, a small spark of curiosity and courage flickered. I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew I couldn't go back to ignoring it. Mom's words echoed again. "You'll see. This is just the beginning." And now I understood. She wasn't just changing my clothes. She was changing my life. A new morning. The next morning, I woke to the familiar sound of birds outside my window and the faint scent of my sister's perfume lingering in the room. My heart was still racing, not from fear, but from a strange sense of anticipation. I had begun to realize that each day in these clothes, each moment of being seen as someone else, was forcing me to confront parts of myself I had long ignored. Mom appeared at the doorway, holding a neatly folded outfit. "Good morning," she said, her voice soft but commanding at the same time. "I picked something special for today." I glanced at the clothes in her hands, a soft lavender dress, simple yet elegant, paired with a delicate cardigan and ballet flats. My throat tightened. This was more than just a swap. This felt like a transformation. I swallowed hard, nodding silently, and began dressing. The fabric slid over my skin, smoother than anything I had worn before, almost like it was designed to mold perfectly to me. As I fastened the dress, I caught my reflection and paused. The person staring back was undeniably me, yet also not me. My features looked softer, my posture different, every movement more deliberate. I felt exposed and empowered at the same time. "See," Mom said from the doorway. "You look incredible." I couldn't respond. My voice caught in my throat. I felt a strange warmth in my chest, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. It wasn't just about how I looked. It was about how I felt. School transformation. The day at school was even more intense than before. People stared, whispered, and pointed. Some of my classmates, who I had thought of as friends, now looked at me with something I couldn't name. Curiosity, surprise, maybe even admiration. I could feel every glance, every subtle judgment, and it was overwhelming. But beneath the fear, a flicker of pride glimmered. For the first time, I realized that I could command attention, not just hide from it. During lunch, I sat alone for a moment, observing the reactions around me. I noticed subtle shifts. Someone looked at me and smiled before quickly looking away. Another whispered to a friend, and I felt the ripple of their attention like a physical force. It was intoxicating, but it also terrified me. Could I ever go back to the person I was before this? Later, my sister approached me, her expression unreadable. "You've changed," she said softly. "Not just your clothes, everything. You carry yourself differently." I nodded slowly, unsure how to articulate what I was feeling. "I don't know. I feel different," I admitted. "It's like I'm seeing myself for the first time." Her eyes softened. "Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe you're discovering something important about who you really are." Weeks of change. Her words echoed in my mind long after she walked away. Was I really discovering something, or was this just a confusing experiment orchestrated by Mom? I didn't know, and the uncertainty both excited and terrified me. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Mom continued to select outfits carefully, each more feminine and intricate than the last. School became a minefield of stares, whispers, and unexpected compliments. I learned to walk differently, speak differently, even think differently. Every action was amplified, every movement scrutinized. And yet, I began to feel a strange comfort in the new identity I was embodying. One afternoon, as I stood in front of a mirror at home, adjusting a ribbon in my hair, Mom entered the room quietly. "You've come a long way," she said, her voice filled with a mix of pride and something deeper I couldn't place. "I see you starting to understand yourself." I turned to her, confusion and fear swirling in my chest. "Understand what?" She smiled, almost wistfully. "Who you are beneath the surface, the part of you that's been hiding, waiting for a chance to emerge." Revelation. Her words struck me like lightning. The idea that I had been hiding, that I had a side of myself I hadn't acknowledged, was both frightening and liberating. I didn't know what the future held, but I felt the pull of curiosity stronger than ever. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every glance, every whisper, every moment of the day. The embarrassment and fear had not disappeared, but they had shifted. They were now tangled with something else, a quiet, persistent thrill, a sense that I was stepping into a version of myself I had never allowed to exist. I realized that Mom's experiment wasn't just about clothes or appearances. It was about courage, acceptance, and the willingness to face the parts of myself I had ignored for too long. And even though I didn't fully understand it yet, I knew I couldn't turn back. Growing confidence. Over the next week, I began to notice subtle changes in how I interacted with people. Friends who had been distant grew closer, intrigued by the new me. Strangers offered smiles and compliments, and I began to respond without fear. The reflection in the mirror became less foreign, more familiar, and with each passing day, I felt the knot of anxiety and excitement in my chest loosen slightly. One evening, as I tried on another outfit Mom had chosen, a soft flowing dress with delicate embroidery, I caught my reflection and paused. I saw strength there, fragility, curiosity, and a hint of defiance. I realized that this transformation wasn't just external. It was reshaping my sense of self, my understanding of who I could be. Mom watched me silently, her eyes filled with a knowing light. "You're doing beautifully," she said. "Remember, it's not just about appearances. It's about discovering your own courage, your own voice." I nodded, a tear slipping down my cheek. I didn't fully understand what that voice was yet, but I felt it stirring inside me, ready to emerge. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something monumental, something that could change everything I thought I knew about myself. The turning point. The morning light felt softer than usual, almost gentle, as if the world itself had shifted overnight. I woke with a strange clarity, my chest no longer tight with panic, but instead filled with a cautious excitement. Today felt different. Today felt like the culmination of everything I had been avoiding, resisting, and secretly yearning for. Mom appeared in the doorway holding another outfit, but this time her smile was quieter, more reflective.
"Good morning," she said.
"I think you're ready." I looked down at the clothes, a pale pink dress with subtle lace detailing paired with a lightweight cardigan and polished flats. It was simple yet elegant, almost as if it had been made for me. I didn't hesitate this time. I dressed deliberately, feeling each movement, each fabric against my skin. The reflection staring back at me no longer seemed foreign or intimidating. I recognized myself in a way I hadn't before, strong, vulnerable, curious, and undeniably me. Full acceptance. Walking to school, the world seemed to slow. Every glance from strangers, every whisper, every subtle smile felt like a confirmation, not of who others thought I was, but of who I had begun to become. For the first time, I didn't shrink under scrutiny. I didn't flinch under stares. I moved with intention, with awareness, and most importantly, with acceptance. At school, reactions came quickly. Some friends were visibly shocked, others whispered. But there was no cruelty, no mockery, just curiosity, and sometimes admiration. When my closest friend approached me in the hallway, their eyes wide but gentle, I no longer felt the panic I had felt weeks before. You look amazing," they said softly. "Thanks," I replied, my voice steady. And for the first time, I meant it. Throughout the day, I noticed subtle shifts in how I interacted with people. Conversations felt easier. Smiles felt genuine, and the world no longer seemed like a minefield of judgment. I could laugh, move, and exist without constantly measuring every gesture, every word. I began to realize that the transformation had been about more than clothes or appearances. It had been about courage, authenticity, and embracing a side of myself I had been too afraid to acknowledge.
Homecoming.
By the time I returned home, my steps felt lighter, almost effortless. Mom was waiting in the living room, her expression calm but knowing. "How was your day?" she asked. I smiled, something real and unforced spreading across my face. "It was incredible," I admitted. I felt me. Different, yes, but like me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could be myself. Mom nodded, her eyes softening. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd discover. Clothes were just the beginning. You've taken the first step toward understanding and accepting yourself, and that's the hardest part." I sank onto the couch, tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. I had never realized how much I had feared being seen, being understood, being myself. And now, for the first time, I didn't have to hide. The reflection in the mirror, the skirts, the dresses, the soft fabrics, they weren't disguises or traps. They were mirrors, tools, and bridges to a self I had never fully embraced. New rhythm. Over the next few weeks, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Mom's subtle guidance continued, but it was no longer an experiment. It was a journey of self-discovery. I learned to navigate the world with confidence, to appreciate the unique person I was becoming, and to understand that identity wasn't static. It was fluid, dynamic, and deeply personal. My sister became a quiet ally, her teasing replaced with gentle encouragement. Friends adjusted, some curious, some supportive, and I found myself enjoying the attention, not because I sought it, but because I had earned the right to exist fully as myself. One evening, as I stood before the mirror, adjusting the ribbon in my hair, I realized I no longer felt fear or embarrassment. I saw strength, curiosity, and authenticity in the reflection. I saw someone who had faced doubt, shame, and uncertainty, and emerged on the other side, transformed, not just in appearance, but in spirit. Final understanding. Mom entered the room quietly. "You've grown so much," she said softly. "I knew you had it in you all along. The courage, the heart, the self-awareness. It was always there. You just needed the chance to see it." I turned to her, a small smile playing on my lips. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything." She nodded, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Remember, this is just the beginning of who you can become. Never be afraid to explore, to question, to embrace yourself fully. The world may stare, but you now know your strength, your courage, and your truth." As I looked back into the mirror, the reflection smiled at me. Not the reflection of someone else's clothes or identity, but my own. I saw a person who had faced fear, navigated uncertainty, and discovered courage in the most unexpected of ways. The skirts, the dresses, the experiments, they had not changed me superficially. They had revealed me fully, authentically, undeniably. And in that moment, I knew I could never go back to hiding, never go back to fearing my own reflection. I was transformed not just by clothes or appearances, but by courage, acceptance, and the discovery of a self I had long denied. Complete transformation. The journey had begun with a simple swap, a push from my mother, and a confrontation with my own fears. It had led me to something far greater, understanding, confidence, and a profound acceptance of who I truly was. I wasn't just wearing my sister's clothes. I was wearing the first layer of a self I was finally ready to embrace. And as the sun set outside my window, casting a golden glow across the room, I smiled at the reflection, truly and completely. I was me,